Do you want to establish a business in Finland? What's up? Welcome to Couple of Expats, where we talk about our life in Finland. And today I have a very special guest joining me today. Laila from Design and Disrupt is going to share her personal journey and tips and exactly what steps you need to take to become a solo business owner in Finland. So if that is on your vision board, you have come to the right place. Do subscribe to our channel and let's go. Laila, I'm so glad you're finally here. So happy to have you on Couple of Expats. If you could please introduce yourself to the audience.
First of all, thank you for having me, you and Chris. I really appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Laila. I'm a solo entrepreneur based here in Finland. I'm also an international. I'm originally born and raised in the Philippines, and I moved to Finland in 2021. I studied my master's in education in Vasa. And after 2 years of studying, I decided to start my own business, which is called Design and Disrupt. It's a digital marketing company for small and mid-sized businesses. And that's about it. Yeah, it's been almost actually more than 2 years of being in business, and it has been
That's amazing.
smooth so far.
That's really great. Yeah. Already 2 years.
Yeah, true. I didn't even realize it.
So the people that are watching this video are, of course, very entrepreneurial. So what is the first thing that they need to do to get started?
Yeah, so there's really a lot. And I think the easiest way to kind of give you some advice is to break it down so you don't get overwhelmed. Starting a business is already overwhelming enough. So first off, I know that we have spoken about this before, and I mentioned kind of three key parts, which is first legal and admin. That includes your, business registration, etc. And then after that, we will be talking about banking or your finance, basically. And lastly, just a small kind of requirements, which are just as important as the first two. So
let's get started with the first.
Yeah, let's get started with the first. So legal. First of all, residence permit. I think you would need to check if your residence permit allows you to start a business in Finland. And there's a lot of situations, right? And we probably don't need time to go into detail about the different residence permit. But first of all, if you're a student like me, let's start with that. You can start your own business even while you're studying, which is great. But there's a catch. It has to be very limited. So you will start a business part-time, and it shouldn't be more than the hours that you're studying, right? So that's what we call light entrepreneurship. That's an option for you if you're coming as a student and want to start a business at the same time. Another one is if you're here, if you have a residence permit as a startup entrepreneur, you can also apply for that. I'm not sure about the residence permit for work. I don't think it's not allowed. You have to have a residence permit for entrepreneurship or for a startup specifically.
Yes, but I think that people also need to have a business ID in most cases, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So once you figured out that you have the proper residence permit, and that you're actually allowed to start your own business legally, then you can go ahead and dive right in with your business name. And I think that's the first thing. Before you register, you would need to have your own business name. And you also have to check the availability of the name. Yeah, exactly. So the way to check that is you just go to ytj.fi. Once you go there, you can see, check your business name if it's available thing. It's in English, so it's easy to navigate. Once your business name is available, then you can register. Oh, and before this, you would also have to figure out which company type you would want to register. So there's 3 basics. The first one is light entrepreneurship. Before everything else, you don't need to register that. Yeah. You just need an invoicing system, which we can later dive into. And the other is Toiminimi or TMI. Basically, this is for solo entrepreneurs.
So you have
I am a I have a Toiminimi. Yeah. And the third one is the OU, which is in English, it's limited liability company. Yeah. And it's usually for 2 founders, 2 business partners or more. And it's also more strict in terms of business financing, those kind of stuff. So you would have to choose which is work best for you.
Yeah. And actually, we have a detailed video on this topic in case you need to know even more about this, and we will link this. So I think a big share of this conversation is actually also about VAT. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So once you've registered your business, for example, you've gone to YTJ, right? And then you entered your business name, you chose your company type, Toiminimi or OU, you gave the necessary documents. Then you have to pay a small amount. I'm not sure, should probably mention it, but it's 60 euros for Toiminimi, at least
at the time of filming
the
video.
time of filming, exactly. So once you're paid, you will be registered in the trade registers, what we call. So that means you have your own business ID, right? Now, once you have your business ID, then we go to the VAT. VAT is necessary for the taxes, but there's also a lot of catch because legally, you are not required to pay VAT if your estimated revenue for a whole year turnover is less than 20,000 euros. Yes. And so you don't need to register if you think, especially if you're a light entrepreneur and you think you would probably just earn 10,000 a year. No. That's fine. You don't need to register. But VAT is better to register as early as you can, especially if you are a large-scale business, if you have a lot of investments. Say, for example, you will invest 20,000 in a certain company materials, right? Then it's better to register for for VAT. But if you're a small scale and also if you're a consumer-based business, it's in a small scale and you don't think you would go beyond 20,000 euros, then probably not. So that's VAT. And I think I would also need to add prepayment register. VAT is, like value added tax, right? But at the same time, if you're an entrepreneur in Finland, you would also have to pay your income tax. And that's when the prepayment register comes in. Yep. Because in Finland, you would need to pay that income tax if you're an entrepreneur in advance, and that's why is the term prepayment. Yeah. In my case, I pay prepayment, per month, basically. You can choose to pay it monthly, quarterly, or even yearly, I believe. Yeah. And you register via Vero, by the way. Yeah. Everything is in Vero. For VAT and prepayment register is in Vero. And just to add, for prepayment register, you would need to, again, go to Vero, mention there how much your estimated turnover is for the year. I believe that would include the expenses. So everything. And then the system itself will calculate how much prepayment you would require to pay. And then you can select when you want to pay it. It's pretty easy. And then once that's done, I think Vero will give you a decision. This is the amount that you need to pay every month or every quarter.
Okay, so we've covered company type, we've covered business ID, and we've also covered that. So then the next thing is permits and licenses.
Yes, correct. Permits and licenses. So this is it depends on your business industry. Yeah. So for example, my business, it's B2B services. It's a service-based business, basically. So I don't need any kind of permits or licenses to operate. Yeah. However, if you're planning to start your own business in food, healthcare, construction, and also cleaning, you would need licenses and some sort of licenses and permits for that. I think the good thing is you can also check this in ytj.fi. Okay. When you register, I think there's a way to check if you need licenses or permits for your business type.
Yeah, so it's very specific to industry and one can find that out pretty early on.
Exactly, yeah. After prepayment and VAT, you would need YEL, which surprisingly, I don't know what that means, but it's in Finnish. But it's what we call YEL insurance, right? Yeah. And it's basically a social insurance for entrepreneurs. If you're an employer, for example, you already pay your social insurance, Kela. It's the same thing with entrepreneurs. It's just a different term. So you are required to pay that right away when you start your own business. So I suggest when you're planning to start your own business, you have to think that one of your biggest expenses is YEL. Okay. And that's a good note to have. And it's a huge amount. Like, it's not cheap, It's 100 euros per month. I think that's even the lowest. It's right. 250 is the lowest per month. And you cannot go lower than that.
So sorry, what's the lowest? Is it 100 or 250?
250, my
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. 250 per month. Around that number.
That can be a lot for some entrepreneurs who are just
Exactly.
getting started.
Exactly. So you need to keep that in mind and make sure that you include that in your expenses right away. So Yell, you pay that monthly, but again, it depends. This is also where your turnover comes in, because the Yell amount is based on how much turnover you will get in a year.
Yeah.
So it changes. And the moment that
Progressive.
progressive, exactly. So when it changes, you would also have to pay more, right? And there's a lot of ways to do this. You get this from private companies. One thing I can mention, in my case, I'm a member of Ilmarinen. I have no complaints against them. They're very smooth. Everything you can do online. Their customer support is also good. They speak good English, so you won't get lost. But of course, there's also other companies if you don't like Ilmarinen, like if Varma. There's a lot. You can just Google it.
So we've been discussing money, and the next question is business bank accounts.
Yeah.
You have something to say there?
Yeah, business bank accounts, they're very important, obviously, for when you start a business. I understand they are also a hefty cost when you start a business, especially if you go with traditional banks, which in Finland, you know what those big names are, Nordea, Danske, OP. They can get really expensive when you start with those. But the reason why I would highly recommend that you have to have your own business bank account right away is just for accounting purposes, right? Like you would track your own expenses, the money comes in, goes in your bank account, and you don't need to mix it up with any personal expenses, which is a headache, trust me, when you send out your income tax return, business tax return. So it's just easier to be more organized. It saves you a lot of time.
Yeah.
And if you go for non-traditional banks like Holvi, they're not that costly. For example, for me, when I started, thank goodness for digital banks. When I started, I heard about Holvi. They're pretty good. I've heard a lot of good things. And even
So
now,
do you have a traditional or do you have the digital?
I have the digital one.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And the good thing about Holvi is, they're good for solo businesses. If you're a toiminimi.
Yeah.
I know there might be a bit difficult for OU. If you have OU, I did hear that some owners still use Holvi.
Yeah, but this video is more for solopreneurs, so I think Holvi might be actually a very good solution.
Yes, so Holvi, I can say the amount, it's 15 euros starting, I think. Or actually, no, maybe there's lower than that, maybe 9 euros or something per month, which already includes business bank account and bank cards, which is very helpful if I go to some kind of a business trip and I need to pay business expenses. I would not count that on my personal. So I would use that. That's very handy. And the good thing is they have a mobile app. And every time I go, for example, I go for a business lunch, for example, and I get a receipt, you would need to record that, right? So you take a photo with your mobile app and then it will scan the receipt for you and then it will save it for accounting purposes.
Okay, sounds convenient.
Very convenient. So I highly, highly recommend it. And it's also very cheap compared to traditional banks.
I love the amount of technical details in this video. So, accounting and invoicing.
Accounting and invoicing. First of all, again, you would need to submit tax return by the end of the year, financial year. And there's a lot of ways to do this. It depends how difficult your accounting system is. So for example, I know some businesses, colleagues who has a very simple, straightforward business, right? Money comes, money goes. That's very easy. If you can do that and if you like numbers, unlike me, then you can do it on your own. You don't need to hire any accountant. And you just have to check with Vero when is the deadline of the tax return, what are the things that you need, right? And obviously you have to do that I don't know, it depends on you, but at least you have to keep track of all those numbers. But if you don't like numbers and you hate calculations,
and I'm sure there's somebody.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Then you can do what I did, which is to hire an external accountant. They're not that cheap. Again, you can include this as your capital costs. But there's a lot in Finland. If you want, maybe I can recommend my accountant. I don't know if that would help, but she's the best. I think invoicing helps a lot with B2B kind of businesses. And again, this is where Holvi comes in because they already have their own accounting system and invoicing system.
All right.
So that means in Finland, we have this thing called e-invoice, wherein you can just, with your invoicing number and stuff, you can just invoice companies online. So it goes directly through your Holvi system and you don't need to send paper and paper.
But Finland is very digital.
Yeah, very digital. So everything goes there.
Yeah. Okay, we've been talking about numbers and we've been talking about numbers and we've been talking about numbers. So if you've survived until now, we actually come to the fun part, which is creating business plans, doing market research about your business. And I'm sure you have some thoughts to add there.
I'm not sure if I would call it fun though. But to be honest, in my experience, when I started my business, I started right away with sales. If I'm being transparent.
You just skip the business.
Exactly. I skipped the business plan because who cares, right? You don't have a business if you don't have sales. I think that's a right mindset for if you're trying to become an entrepreneur. But of course, when you start getting sales and you already have, started invoicing clients, then it's time to talk about business plan. In Finland, if you're in a specific city, there's a lot of associations, free advices out there, business consultants who can give you advice on how to create a business plan in Finland. They can also be very specific about this, I would say, especially if you're an OU, by the way. If you're trying to raise investments, then they're very
funding.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You would need to be more serious about that. Yeah. But if you're a toy mini or solo entrepreneur just like me, it's not that serious, but you still have to have it. So if it depends on where you are based in Finland or if you're moving in Finland, but they have those free advices. You just go there, check what the name is. It has different names.
Yeah, but it's city-based.
City-based, yes, exactly.
So it depends on where you're living in Finland.
Yeah. In my case, in Vasa, I went to this organization called Vasek. They're free. They had a workshop, business plan workshop in English, which was amazing.
That's great.
And they also give you feedback right away based on your business plan. So take advantage of that, please. It's free.
For sure.
Another thing, market research. Again, I did not do this when I started. I skipped all of those paperworks. But when you're ready, then do it. What is important to think about market research is who are your customers. Really get into the detail, where they are living, how old are they, what's their income status, what's their, for example, if you're B2B, what's their title, subtitle, those kind of things. And also how to target them, right? Like what channels where are they based? Would you network with them? Are they in Finland?
Where do you meet them?
How would you reach them? Yeah. So that's market research.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't need to be like a 10-page document. I believe mine was just a 1-pager.
I think the fun part came at the end. So now we get to talk about marketing and branding.
Which is the fun part.
Exactly.
Yeah, marketing and branding. Again, I think if you have your own business, then you have to get it out there. And that's where the branding and digital presence comes in. And branding is, these are your logos. And you don't even have to have a logo right away. But digital presence, yes, this is where your website comes in, because how are they not gonna know about you if you don't have a website? And also, just a side note, I think this is where the Finnish trust comes in as a culture, because when they hear, for example, if you go to a business event and they say, what's your business? You talk about your business. The second question that comes in is, what's your website? Where can I check you?
So you have to have that authority already built.
Exactly, yeah.
Where they can see.
It's professional, right? Like if you say, oh, I don't have a website, I don't think that looks professional, and I don't think they would trust you right away. So that's why websites are important in Finland specifically.
May I ask, what is the first thing that you did? Like in terms of branding or digital presence? Was it the website? Was it your website?
I did
your
logo.
Okay.
Yeah, I did logo first. I think because it was fun. It's more fun.
But her company is called Design and Disrupt, so I could see that logos and
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the website came second, and then social media, profiles.
So to take note, logo, website, socials.
And last one, Google business profile, which I think
that's advanced, but also very good.
Very important though. And it's probably not that important for solo entrepreneurs. Again, it depends on your industry.
Yeah.
But for example, if you're cleaning restaurants, please have your Google business profile. That's a free marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun side note, Lila actually designed our website, or our new website. I don't know if I can call it new, but it does feel new. If you haven't seen it, go check that out. Okay, we've covered so much, but I want to take a step back and ask you that, did you know when you were studying in Finland that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? And how was that going from being a student to being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. Yeah, I knew when I was a student, when I was studying, probably my second year of studies. And that was because I was already thinking, what am I going to do? What the hell am I going to do after graduation, right? Like at some point you get there.
What am I going to do?
What am I going to do after graduation? Yes. And I didn't want to work. Again, my background is in education, and I didn't want to work as a teacher. I had an opportunity I had an option to go to educational policies because that's where my heart is. But I did not know that. That's very difficult in Finland because you would need a language, you would need networks. It's not easy to get into Finnish government, become a government employee.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, what else am I going to do for me? And at the time I was also working with a digital marketing company, and that's how I got into marketing. And so I said, it would be cool to become an entrepreneur after graduation. And so I started freelancing, got client base, built my client base, and then now here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the journey, it's also been lonely at some point for you.
Oh, for sure. And also depression is the highest for entrepreneurs. So that's something that you would need to remember. It's very lonely, especially if you are an international and you don't know anyone who has done this before. And I think that's where support system and where networks comes in, because when I first started, I did not know anyone. Like, I didn't know anyone who started a business in Finland who are internationals. So I needed a role model, right? I needed someone to talk to, but there was no one.
Yeah.
And so I started networking. I became a member of Suomi-Yrittäjät. Maybe we can talk about this right away. It's the biggest association for Finnish enterprises, and every city in all throughout Finland has its own chapter or local association.
Yeah.
And that's where I started getting, I attended their events. I became a member, paying member. You have to pay for it. And I started attending their events, got some contacts, It's just a good feeling, I think, if you are surrounded by people who do what you want
to do. Yeah, that's a very good tip, and very good to keep in mind for those who want to go down that path, that you don't have to do it alone.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's be as specific and practical as possible. If people are facing similar difficulties, where do they go? Where can they get some help if they need it?
Yes. So as I was saying, Suomi-Yrittäjät, right? I'm a member of, there's a network called Migrant Entrepreneurs Network in Suomi-Yrittäjät. And basically what we do is to advocate for migrant entrepreneurs in Finland. So if you have I'm also speaking in behalf of that network, by the way. So if you have any, tips at all or some things that we should do for you, I would love to hear them. You can message me.
We're going to put your LinkedIn link in the description box below, so you know exactly where to find Lila.
Yes, I would love to hear from you, because that's exactly what we're there for, is to hear experiences of internationals, hear what they need, what they want, and then create some kind of a program.
Yeah.
With Suomi-Yrittäjät. So that's one thing, Suomi-Yrittäjät. I highly encourage you to become a member. They have a lot of events specifically for members, right? And a lot of them is just very chill and cozy, just get to know people in your area who are also entrepreneurs. And I understand it can get overwhelming if you're an entrepreneur, because it's very, they speak Finnish.
Yeah.
But please still go.
Yeah. Go. Show up.
Yeah, show up, even though it's uncomfortable. I think I could also mention MYR, which is a specifically association for micro and solo entrepreneurs in Finland. So that's 10 employees and below.
Okay.
They're also cheaper in terms of membership fees. It's like 30 euros per year. And they do have English events. Unfortunately, mostly it's in Helsinki, but they have very helpful advice in terms of Yell. So that's a huge thing. Yell is a huge thing for solo entrepreneurs.
And maybe difficult to navigate. So
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you have specific questions, just call them.
Okay. Do you wish that when you started entrepreneurship, you'd have seen a video like this one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there are a few, or at least I haven't searched YouTube when I started. But yes, I do wish that we have this sort of resource. Yeah. And thanks to you for creating this.
Thank you for taking out your time. If you hadn't realized already, Laila came all the way from Vasa to Turku to share these insights with you. So we are so grateful that you were able to join us, Laila. And it has been just a pure pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. And again, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. So, future business owners, are you ready to get started? I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. A very warm thank you to Laila for all the insights she shared. You should be much more prepared after watching this video of how to start a business. So, if you do have any comments, do leave it in the comments so we know what is it that you are still wondering about. If you have enjoyed, click the like button and subscribe to our channel about life in Finland, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!